Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Kev BKA Beloved Show. I'm your host, Kev BKA Beloved. On today's show, we got a end of the NFL season recap and a NFL playoff preview. Don't you worry, for y'all that missed the playoffs, just like my team, I got a little recap for y'all too, a little special treat for y'all before we get to the playoff preview. But first, I got to talk about the two biggest topics that we missed seemingly the moment I got off the mic last week. Katt Williams and Aaron Rodgers. I was thinking about which one I'm going to go with first, so I figured I'd go with the one that would make me less upset. Let's start with Katt Williams. So Katt Williams was on the Club Shay Shay podcast hosted by Shannon Sharpe. And boy, oh boy, if for whatever reason you've been under a rock for the past week and you have not seen this interview, I suggest after you rate, subscribe, all that fun shit to this podcast, go listen to it. Sending shots to Ricky Smiley for claiming that he was supposed to be Money Mike over him. Sending shots at Kevin Hart like he's been doing for seemingly the past 5 years. Steve Harvey for telling lies on a podcast. Cedric the Entertainer. Earthquake. A lot of people. I don't really know or care enough about these celebrities to defend their character or defend their honor to y'all. I barely vouch for people I know in real life because I don't know what they're like when I'm not around them. However, I will defend Katt Williams' right to do so and air out his grievances on the podcast. Because like he said, they were on Shannon's platform talking about him. So it's only right that since he's on the mic now, he goes out there and does it himself. Speaking of Shannon's platform, now I'm a fan of the Club Shay Shay podcast and Shannon Sharpe in general. And I've seen a lot of people took issue with Shannon's interview style and didn't like the way he conducted himself with Katt Williams. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you that is how Shannon Sharpe interviews. He is going to let you go. He's not cutting you off. This isn't Nori. He's not going to jump in every 3 seconds and, yeah, give it up for God, everybody. No. Shannon's letting you rock, and he's going to interject where he sees fit, for better, for worse. Now, the line between letting the other person completely take over the interview and letting your guests talk all the time is very slim. Only about 3 people ever walk that line perfectly. And silly me, I don't expect the Hall of Fame tight end to be one of those people. But the main people I see that took issue with the way Shannon conducted the interview were the Big J journalists who, quite honestly, y'all just seem jealous. Just very envious and jealous. And this isn't the first time that we've noticed that the journalists have spewed a little extra venom to athletes that are in media. Now, most of us don't have journalism degrees. We don't know the art of the interview y'all do and how to articulate the points and follow-up questions and where things are supposed to be placed. We may not know the intricacies of that, but we know what jealousy looks like. We know what envy looks like. We know what ill intentions look like, and that is what all y'all show. At the time I'm recording this, the Katt Williams interview for Shannon Sharpe is up to 31 million views, and a lot of y'all are very upset about it. I'm very happy that Shannon Sharpe went on Nightcap Saturday night and called y'all on it. It's like, y'all don't care about the way I interview people. This is his 100th-ish podcast. Again, I've been listening quite a while. I've heard a majority of these podcast interviews. Nothing has changed within the way that Shannon interviews people. All that changed the attention on it. Thus is why envy is starting the show. Okay, now back to Katt Williams. So I'm not going to defend Katt's character because, again, I don't have any personal experiences with the man outside of the fact he's one of my favorite comedians ever. However, a lot of people did. The amount of smaller, quote unquote, smaller comedians that came out the woodwork and said, yeah, Katt been nothing but a stand-up guy to me. I was down on my luck. I was a just starting out comedian. Some random person gave me money and said it was on behalf of Katt Williams, or I found out Katt gave me money this way. So many stories about how great of a guy Katt Williams has been behind closed doors. My favorite of which being Boosie, when he first came out of jail, told the story about how Katt Williams gave him $15,000 when he didn't have a dime. He was living in a hotel with his family. He don't know Boosie from a can of paint. And Katt Williams was just like, Boosie home, here's $15K, just because. So you couple that with outside of the aforementioned comedians Katt shot at in the Shannon Sharpe interview, every other comedian Shannon brought up, a celebrity period, Katt didn't have the issue with. He kind of bigged up a lot of people, especially the younger comedians, who, if you're familiar with how comedians of Katt generation talk about the younger crowd, that is rare. That almost never happens. So when I couple those two things together, I don't think Katt's bitter. I don't think he's a hater. And it's not like Katt Williams is irrelevant. I hate when y'all try to do that on social media. Oh, they're just trying to get relevancy and they're trying to be a clout chaser. And nigga, he has an Emmy. He's fine. I tried to get tickets to see Katt Williams last year at Constitution Hall, and it was like a week or two before the show, all sold out. I couldn't get a ticket. So clearly he's doing okay. And it's just ultimately dismissive of the point he's trying to make. If you just don't like the fact he's talking about celebrities that you like, just say that. You don't have to just try to talk down on the man and say he's bitter. For what? But as he talks about the industry, this is one thing he brought up that I have an issue with. And it's not just a him thing. It's an all black people thing. And this is where the other people, you can skip to the Aaron Rodgers part on this one. He brought up the Illuminati a lot. And this is not the first time he's done it. He does it on stage too. And black people, I need us to let this Illuminati thing go. I need us to let it go. And it's for several reasons. First of which being, I have never heard y'all say that anybody who is not black is part of the Illuminati. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Bernard Arnault are up billions, and not a once have I ever heard y'all say that they sold their soul to the devil. But Steve Harvey got a couple hundred millions, and magically him and Satan got to be besties. Does that make sense to y'all? The way it comes off to me is internalized self-hatred. The thought of black people becoming super rich and successful on their own merit is so unfathomable to you that they just had to sell their soul to the devil. Also, more importantly, am I the only one who remembers how the Me Too movement started? Am I the only one who remembers where the term cancel culture came from? It wasn't because a couple comedians wanted to tell gay jokes on stage and we wouldn't allow it. No. It started because men in a position of power were using that power to exchange sexual favors from women and sometimes other men in order for them to keep their career or progress in their career. You let Katt and other people who talk about the Illuminati sell it. That's kind of the story. It's you want to progress in your career, you got to come do this sexual favor for me. I think Katt said verbatim in a Shannon Sharpe interview, Harvey Weinstein tried to suck my penis 10 years ago in front of my whole agency. And that's kind of my point as to why I don't want us to keep using this Illuminati term. These people have names. Harvey Weinstein has a name. Jeffrey Epstein has a name. And those are just the people we know. And if we weren't too busy chasing ghosts, we could actually go find these people. Like, we shouldn't be chasing conspiracy. The answers are in front of us. We don't have to look very far. And if we were just unite just a little bit and start dealing with some facts of, hey, if Harvey Weinstein was comfortable enough to do this for years, he's just going to be the example because he's the most broad and most famous one, and also fuck Harvey Weinstein and everyone who thinks like him. If he so cavalierly was doing this for years unscathed, clearly he is not alone in this practice. Let's go find the rest of his cohorts. But instead, we're chasing the shadow Illuminati because, oh my God, conspiracy. Speaking of conspiracies, it actually segues me perfectly to Aaron Rodgers. And Nick Wright talked about this subject almost perfectly, and I don't want to regurgitate a lot of the things he said. But my main issue with Aaron Rodgers is, me personally, as a person that gets on a microphone pretty much daily, I not only think of the things I say, but I think of the people who will agree with the things I say. What do I mean by that? If I were to critique black women on any platform, and a bunch of these alpha male, red pill, He-Man, women hater clubs type niggas start championing my statements and me, I'm going to have to take a look in the mirror because that's not the side I want to be aligned with. I'm not with y'all. I don't share y'all line of thinking. And if that's how I'm starting to come off, I'm going to be concerned. Aaron Rodgers does not have that concern. This Jimmy Kimmel Epstein situation is the latest example. And I see a lot of those minions of his are asking, why is it such a big deal? Well, Jimmy Kimmel's a comedian. He should be able to take a joke. Calling someone a pedophile on national TV is not a joke, my nigga. That is called defamation of character. I'll read you the legal definition of defamation of character. This is straight from Forbes. Each state establishes its own definition for defamation of character. In general, however, it occurs when a false statement is made by a third party. The statement is presented as fact. The statement causes reputational damage. It can take place in two forms. False statement can be made orally, in which case you can sue for slander. And it can be made in writing, to which you can sue for libel. He said on ESPN, they just announced that Pat McAfee Show got 298 million impressions across all platforms in the month of December alone, which, shout out to Pat McAfee, that's an insane number. Let's say Aaron Rodgers is responsible for 10% of that. You're telling me that roughly 29, 30 million people heard you say that this man is possibly a pedophile, and that's just ha ha ha, tee hee. No, bruh. To the point where the next day, people were photoshopping Jimmy Kimmel's name on the Epstein list. That's not a joke. As far as where that leaves Pat McAfee and Disney, at the time I'm recording this, it hasn't been announced whether Aaron Rodgers will be back on the Pat McAfee show or not. Hey, from the future. So Aaron Rodgers went back on Pat McAfee's show today, and if you guessed that he was going to take accountability and apologize to Jimmy Kimmel, you guessed wrong. Instead, he went the route of, the media twisted my words, and this is their plan to cancel me, and then he continued with his Alex Jones-esque rhetoric. So that was fun. Back to our regularly scheduled podcast. Because Jimmy Kimmel is a Walt Disney employee under ABC, the same way that Pat McAfee is a Walt Disney employee under ESPN. And if Pat McAfee can have people call Disney employees pedophiles on his show, and then later in the week also call out a ESPN exec for trying to sabotage a show in the same week, congratulations, Pat McAfee. You are now the most powerful person at ESPN. They suspended Stephen A. Smith for saying something about Michelle Beadle, of all people, who doesn't even work there anymore. So if Pat gets this off, oh man, salute to you. But here's where I am with Aaron Rodgers, and I need y'all to realize this. Aaron Rodgers is too far gone. Aaron Rodgers cannot be saved. Nobody has gone down this far of a path of the conspiracy theorist, tinfoil hat person, and has come back the same person. Because of the amount of ignoring the facts and confirmation bias you have to already partake in before you get that far, all they know is doubling down, and they're going to continue to do so. Especially when you're a $100 millionaire future Hall of Fame quarterback who clearly has nobody around him who's pushing back on him, like we see every week on the McAfee show. You think anyone on the Jets is pushing back on Aaron Rodgers' batshit crazy thoughts? They can't even bring themselves to fire his offensive coordinator he likes, even though he's clearly terrible. You think they want to get into vaccine arguments with this man? The owner of the Jets, Woody Johnson, is part of the family that owns Johnson & Johnson, which makes baby wipes, lotions, and vaccines. If he can't get through to him, bruh, nothing. He's gone, bruh. There's nothing we could do about this. And another part that hits home for me always is the arrogance of that way of thinking. We don't hate Aaron Rodgers simply because he is an anti-vaxxer. There's a lot of anti-vaxxers in the world. I think you're stupid for reasons I'll get to later, but this is America. You have the right to be stupid, as long as you keep your stupid to yourself and not try to make other people stupid with you. It's the fact that Aaron Rodgers presents his stupidity as fact, and because he has such a large platform, that's the way it's perceived by so many people. And the arrogance of it comes from this. Aaron Rodgers likes to go at Dr. Fauci, right? Do y'all know what Dr. Fauci's level of education is? He has a bachelor's degree pre-medicine from Holy Cross, a doctorate degree from Cornell. He did a residency at the Cornell Medical Center. That was by 1968. So that is 10 years of medical education before another 15 years of experience in this field before Aaron Rodgers was even born. And he wants y'all to believe that he knows better than him. You know how crazy that sounds? And it hits a little closer to home for me because, full transparency, I have a degree in biology. I went to school for biology. Was going to get a doctorate degree, but story for another day on that one. As well as losing multiple family members to COVID, I would get into several arguments with friends, family members, co-workers, associates, where they would bring me these videos and these articles and these websites of this just terrible information about the vaccine and the COVID virus. And along my journey of getting this bachelor's degree, part of the curriculum is learning how to identify a credible source. I didn't realize how important that skill was until the pandemic, and I realized how easy it is to get y'all to believe some bullshit. The amount of times I had to go back and tell people, no, that's not how the body works. No, that's not what mRNA is. No, that's not what that study says. That's not how that's meant to be interpreted. No, that's not how the vaccine is. The amount of times I've had to go back and forth with people, and even still, after giving concrete evidence, because they did a couple hours of a YouTube deep dive, suddenly that trumps my 4 years of a college education. In Dr. Fauci's situation, the over 50 years of experience he has in the field because you decided to go on YouTube one day. Does that make sense? And Aaron Rodgers is the final level on a video game boss battle version of this person. And he gets to go on ESPN once a week and talk to Pat McAfee about it. Do we not get how fucking dangerous this is? And I know to his legion of anti-vaxxers, this is going to go in through one ear and out the other, because facts and anything that doesn't agree with you, y'all don't agree with. And I always find that funny because y'all refer to yourself as free and independent thinkers. And it's crazy to me that all you free and independent thinkers all think the goddamn same. All right, I think I got it all out. Quick break, and then we're going to talk about the NFL. And we're back. Now that we got all the political and pop culture stuff out the way, we can talk about some football. If you want to hear me talk about the college football national championship, you can go listen to the opening kickoff podcast I do with my man Dave Steinweno, Peyton Gerard, Brandon Stevens, Dave Miles, the whole opening kickoff crew. I was over there kicking it. We drop on the same day, so all you got to do is go wherever you're listening to this, look up opening kickoff podcast. Yep. Just like opening kickoff to a game, and you will find them. But in the meantime, in between time, how do we spice things up? It's a new season. It's the playoffs. How do we do this? And I came up with an idea of a tiers list. And it's not just S tier, A tier, B tier. Oh, no. That's way too easy. I made up my own tiers. We're going to start with the teams that didn't make the playoffs in a segment I call Football Farewell. I would play the Boyz II Men. It's too hard, but I don't want to get sued. So we're just going to keep going with this. Football Farewell, we have the B fucking Forreal Tier, the 2025 All-Stars, the Sam Cooke Tier, and the Missionary Position Tier. Don't you worry, I'll explain what every single one of these tiers mean. Let's start at the bottom, the B fucking Forreal Tier. It is exactly what it sounds like. In order for this team to succeed next year, y'all need to be fucking for real. First up on the B fucking Forreal Tier is the New York Jets. If the Jets don't get a backup plan for Aaron Rodgers this year, they're just as batshit crazy as he is. Not having a backup plan literally tanked their season this year. Surprise, surprise, a 40-year-old quarterback might be prone to injury, especially if you don't have a good offensive line in front of him. Let alone the fact that that backup plan was Zach Wilson, which thank God they already announced that they're going to ship him out of town. Compounding mediocrity on top of mediocrity is the Jets' tale as old as time. They need to flip the script at some point. Problem is, they only got about $16 million in cap room, and like I said, they still have to fix that offensive line. They got some defensive players that need some contracts coming up, so they're in a little bit of trouble. But Joe Douglas got him into this mess. God damn it, he has to get him out of it. Next on the B fucking Forreal Tier, we have the New York Giants. This is the first team in the history of the NFL where your starting quarterback coming back is a bad thing. And to make matters worse, they still won't commit to signing Saquon Barkley. The audacity of these guys. After watching not one but two different quarterbacks come in and immediately make the offense look better than it ever did under Daniel Jones this year. The first thing that Joe Shane and Brian Daboll did when they came back to their press conference this year is say, oh yeah, we still have all the confidence in the world in Daniel Jones. Based on what? But Saquon hasn't showed y'all enough to guarantee a long-term deal. Okay, this is where I need y'all to be fucking for real as the Giants. You messed up with the Daniel Jones contract. You are going to continue to compound this mistake by also alienating Saquon Barkley, because if you franchise tag him again, there's no reason he should take another step at MetLife Stadium. You have the number 6 pick. I don't know if you'll be able to get a quarterback at that spot, but with the luck y'all have, you might end up fucking up that pick too. That's the exact pick that y'all drafted Daniel Jones at, so maybe y'all shouldn't draft a QB. Go somewhere else with it. Next on the B fucking Forreal Tier, we have the Chicago Bears. You have just failed in developing one first-round quarterback. What have you done to ensure that that does not happen again? Do you have the infrastructure in place to make sure that doesn't happen again? If not, which, let's be honest, the answer is no. How do we fix this? You have 2 top 10 picks in one of the greatest offensive drafts we've seen in the past at least 10 years. $62 million in cap space. If this isn't the offseason to get it done, I don't know what is. As far as we know right now, they plan on keeping Matt Eberflus. I think that's if Jim Harbaugh says he wants to coach for the Chicago Bears, Matt Eberflus is out the door. So we'll see how this goes. Last on the B fucking Forreal Tier, that was on the 2025 All-Stars until this morning when they fired Mike Vrabel, you fucking idiots. Who do you think you are to fire one of the 5 or 6 best coaches in football? Why? Here's just a rule of thumb for every GM, owner, and anyone who runs a team. Just float the rumor out there that you're thinking about firing your coach. If all of football media calls you an idiot, don't fire your coach. I don't feel like that's that difficult, is it? You know that you gutted your roster. That's why you fired the last GM. And with said gutted roster, Mike Vrabel still kept y'all competitive in games y'all had no business being competitive in. You beat the damn Dolphins, and they were 1 away from being a 2 seed. But still, you got the 7th overall pick in the draft, and you have just under $80 million in cap space this offseason. Do not shoot your load. There is no coaching signing you can make. There's no draft pick you can make. There's no free agent you can sign this offseason that is going to make you a Super Bowl contender. Sit back, comport yourself, get your shit together for a year, and maybe, just maybe, you can be a 2025 All-Star, but I still need y'all to be fucking for real first. Next, we got the 2025 All-Stars, and the original premise of this was, hey man, it just ain't finna happen for you next year, but there's hope for you the year after. That was back when the Titans were still a part of this tier. Now it's just a, yeah, there's no hope for you this year. And the lone team on this tier is the Carolina Panthers. And oh boy, Panthers fans, this year could not have gone worse. You trade for last year's number 1 pick just for you to exit the year and still not be sure about the quarterback you drafted at number 1, whether fair or unfair, end up being the worst team in the league, which you probably would have been anyways if you never would have traded for that pick. In a draft year where the number 1, number 2, and probably even number 3 quarterbacks are significantly better than the first quarterback prospect last year, your whole coaching staff gets fired. Your owner is auditioning to be part of Real Housewives of Charlotte. What self-respecting coach is going to take this job? What self-respecting GM is going to take this job? He wouldn't even have draft picks to trade to improve this roster. They only have 6 picks in this year's draft because they traded for the aforementioned Bryce Young. Hold it down for one more year, Panthers fans. Just watch Cam Newton's podcast to hold you over so you can have some way, shape, or form of Carolina-based entertainment for the next year. Next tier, we got the Sam Cooke tier because it's been a long time coming, but I know change gonna come. Oh, yes, it will. If you are a team on this tier, then oh, baby, change is gonna come if it has not already. First of which was the Washington Commanders, who were already on this tier. And then as I was typing it out, Ron Rivera very literally got fired as I was typing. And when I tell you everybody at the Commanders is about to get fired, Ron's already out the door. The GM's out the door. I heard the ball boys next. If you work at the Commanders, I hope you have been keeping your resume updated. Oh, baby. They're already neck deep in their GM and coach search, including bringing in Bob Myers, which a lot of people were killing Josh Harris for. Hey, look, finding someone capable of running a team, I'm not too mad at the person who figured out, hey, we should bring in Steve Kerr over Mark Jackson, even though Mark Jackson's already working, and Steve Kerr proceeds to ring 4 rings for my franchise. Anyone with that type of foresight, I would like to have on my side of the thing. So let's let them cook. For all you know, it's still the Commanders, so who knows? Maybe this still might fall flat on their face, but let them cook. I want Commanders fans to know, although you are more than likely getting a new quarterback, and the most likely scenario is you trade way too much to move up 1 spot to get Caleb Williams. Only a new quarterback is not going to save you. Sam Howell was the most sacked quarterback in football last year. All you're doing is setting your next rookie quarterback back up there to have the same thing happen to them. You got $85 million in cap space this offseason. Whoever you hire with the new GM better get on them phone lines, quick, contact every agent they know, and get ready to make some moves. Next on the Sam Cooke tier, we got the Las Vegas Raiders. Firing Antonio Pierce will be the biggest mistake the Raiders have made since their last head coaching hire, which means that's exactly what's about to happen. Rumor has it that they want Harbaugh, but he knows you can't win in this league without a quarterback. So why the hell would he take that job? And please don't do the whole, all AOC needs is a full offseason where he knows he's a starter. That never works. If you didn't think he had it last year, he's not going to have it next year. Spare yourself the trouble. This is how I predict their offseason is going to go. They're going to strike out on every big name coach they want to hire because why would anyone want to go there? They're going to piss off Antonio Pierce in the process and run him into the arms of the New York Giants coaching staff and end up flat on their face. Again. Next step will be trading off all their vets and getting ready to tank for Shedeur Sanders the following year. Next in the Sam Cooke tier, sadly, we have my New England Patriots. As I sit here right now, I still don't have news on the Bill Belichick updated, firing, hiring, whoever. We don't know. I do have rumors. Rumor number 1, obviously, is the Tom Curran story that they already decided Bill Belichick wasn't coming back next year after the Germany game. To that, I would say, if that's the case, then why is he still employed and working in the building right now? If you knew you were going to get fired, are you going to keep showing up to work? Just saying. Next is the holdup as to why he has not been fired yet is because they want to trade Bill Belichick, and I'm not sure you could trade a coach when the season is still going on. Somebody smarter than me is going to have to answer that for me. And rumor 3 is they were hoping and praying that Mike Vrabel ended up getting fired or wanted to quit from the Titans. They finally got their wish, and now they're going to move on firing Bill Belichick. I'm be honest, I've been on the I want to keep Bill Belichick train all year long. If you've listened to this podcast, listen to me, period, you know that's been a train I've been on. However, I'm not mad at Mike Vrabel. Not mad at Mike Vrabel at all. Mike Vrabel comes in, go grab Wes Walker from the Dolphins, let him be offensive coordinator. Rob Mayo's already on the staff, defense coordinator. Matt Slater runs the special teams. Just have to be a whole Patriot reunion. Tom Brady's partial owner of the Raiders, so he can't come and, join the party, but that's fine. He can watch some games. Next on the Sam Cooke tier is the Los Angeles Chargers, who should have had a change come last year, but stupidly decided that they wanted to wait a year. The same coach that they're going to try and hire this year, Jim Harbaugh, already wanted to go there last year. So now they're going to probably have to pay him more and give him more power just because they just had to stay with Brandon Staley. If that's not a Chargers mistake, I don't know what is. My only concern is that Jim Harbaugh runs a little too dated of an offense, and most of us don't want to see Justin Herbert in a J.J. McCarthy-esque role where he's just making the throws where we need him to make it. But my friend Dave on the Opening Kickoff podcast made a great point. I kind of put these words in his mouth, but this is what he alluded to. He said, what if Justin Herbert's a rich man's Jared Goff, and that's just the best role for him, and he's just the best version of if you need this throw, you know good and damn well I'm making this throw. And that's a better role than we're going to have you throw the ball 45 times. I like that idea. Me personally, I like that idea. Next on the Sam Cooke tier, we have the Denver Broncos. And I need y'all to answer, who is the Denver Broncos quarterback next year? Because it's not going to be Russ. They are in the negative of $19 million on the cap. That does not include the $35 million cap hit that Russ is going to add. So that is going to put them somewhere in the area of $55 million negative. They're going to have to gut this roster. They're not going to have the money to sign a big quarterback. They have the 12th pick in the draft, so they don't have a pick high enough to sign a quarterback. They don't have the draft capital to trade up for one. Honestly, they probably should have been in the 2025 All-Stars category, but a change is going to have to come because you're getting rid of your quarterback. So change is on the way. Next, we have the Atlanta Falcons, and this is the most attractive head coaching job in the entire league. Hands down, bar none. You're following a coach that the fan base and the whole league hated in Arthur Smith. If you follow this podcast, you know I celebrated from a good, healthy place when they sent Arthur Smith's ass to the curve. But through Arthur Smith's tenure, it showed that the ownership and front office is going to let you cook. Sometimes they're going to let you cook too much. There's a defense on the come up. You have the best supporting cast on offense this side of San Francisco, and you get to pick your quarterback. It doesn't get better than this. Number 8 pick in the draft, $36 million in cap room. Bruh. If the Falcons nail this head coaching hire, which they should, because who wouldn't want to go there? And you get to live in Atlanta. Come on now, this is a win. And last team on the Sam Cooke tier, the New Orleans Saints. And oh boy, you have a head coach that the fan base hates, a quarterback that the fan base hates. And because you're in cap hell, you can't afford to fire either one of them. They are dead last in available cap room at, this number's going to make your jaw drop, negative $75.9 million. Nigga. They might actually break out in a song and sing A Change Gonna Come in the entire Superdome as fans, because Jesus Christ, it looks hopeless for the Saints next year. It's like a worse version of what happened with the Chargers. You're going to keep your head coach for a year too long. Only difference is, instead of having Justin Herbert, you got Derek Carr. Yikes. All right, last tier, we got the missionary position. That's exactly what it sounds like. You're in a missionary position. It's basic. You gotta put your work in. Don't get me wrong. You gotta put your work in. I'm trying not to get too graphic so I don't get kicked off YouTube. But you gotta put your work in. But it's missionary position. We're gonna keep shit basic. We're gonna keep shit simple. And we're gonna make the movements where we need to. First up, the Arizona Cardinals. Hey, y'all remember when we thought the Cardinals were tanking? That was fun, right? Now, they're the most hopeful 4-13 team we've ever seen. They've already committed to keeping Kyler Murray, as they should. And now they end up getting Marvin Harrison Jr. for their troubles, more than likely. Because they have the 4th pick. I don't know what the Patriots are doing at 3. Not important. Turns out Jonathan Gannon can actually coach his ass off. And if you don't think the Cardinals are good enough proof of that, just go look at the Eagles defense right now. With $51 million in cap space, if you're the Cardinals, hey man, you make a couple smart moves here or there. You don't need no big splashy free agents. For what? Roll the team out real healthy next year. Year 2 of Gannon, fully healthy Kyler. Y'all can go ahead and compete for some stuff in the NFC next year. Why the hell not? Next in the missionary position tier, we have the Cincinnati Bengals. If relaxing running back was a team, it'll be the Bengals. Start the year off with Joe Burrow on one leg, and then just when things start to go your way, he breaks his wrist. That's just a bad beat. If there was ever a scenario where T. Higgins and Jamar Chase can look at each other and be like, you know what, bro? I'm going to hold off on my extension. You go ahead and sign this franchise tag. Let's just run it back for a year. Because you have to feel like you got cheated out of a ring if you're on the Bengals. Outside of the Ravens in the entire playoff field, is there a team that you feel like the Bengals can definitively not beat? And even with the Ravens, it's a divisional matchup. You never know with those things. I say you charge this year to the game, you give it one more year, and run it back next year. Next in the missionary position tier, we got the Minnesota Vikings. Why are the Vikings in such a rush to get rid of Kirk Cousins again? I heard they were going to all season long, but why? They went 7-10. They were 4-4 when he got hurt. You're telling me Kirk Cousins is worth 3 more wins? They had the one black quarterback to ever play at BYU in the lineup. Brian Flores has the defense on the come up. Jordan Addison looks like a superstar. Worst case scenario, they end up signing Justin Jefferson to a franchise tag. Get the damn deal done. Come on. You have one of, if not the best receiver in football on your team. Sign his goddamn contract. TJ Hockenson will be back. They have the best left tackle not named Trent Williams or Christian Darrisaw. Now, you got to upgrade our running back, because Madison's not it. You have the 11th pick in the draft, and before you say that's too high to draft a running back, I would like to remind you that Jahmyr Gibbs is in their division and scored on them 3 times this year. Just saying. Next in the missionary position tier, we have the Seattle Seahawks, and they're in this tier because if you ask me how to fix the Seahawks, I do not have an answer for you. The problem is not personnel. Their problem is health and performance. People think Geno fell off. No, when the offensive line lost its health, kind of hard to beat Geno Smith and take all the deep shots you want downfield when you don't have the blocking to do so. Along the lines of personnel being hurt, when they're not out the game, they still look like they have lingering effects from the injuries. See Jamal Adams, who clearly is not the same player he was 2 years ago. And the Reek Woolen situation just looks weird. He went from last year, are we sure he's not better than Sauce Gardner, to another DNP coach's decision? What the hell happened? So I honestly, someone who's more familiar with the Seattle situation is going to have to put me on game because I don't know what the fix for Seattle is. So for right now, we're just going to stay in the missionary position to see if we can make shit shake. Next, we have the Jacksonville Jaguars, and they're in this division by default because I don't even know how they ended up not being in the playoffs, to be honest. But there's a big question that the Jacksonville Jaguars have to ask themselves. Is Trevor Lawrence a $280 million quarterback? Because he's due for an extension, and that's the price. Now, we've given Trevor Lawrence a lot of leeway, and I'm not even saying we shouldn't have. A lot of it's justified. If I had to play under Urban Meyer, I'd be pissed too. But outside of the second half of that Chargers playoff game, has he showed anything that has said this is a generational franchise quarterback the way we were promised? And I'm not even mad that we're making the excuses for him. I'm not even calling him a bust. My rule has always been 3 years, and I'm willing to throw the first one out the window because of Urban Meyer. But 2 things. 1, when Caleb Williams gets in the league, y'all better be this goddamn lenient with him too. And 2, if he becomes the highest paid player in NFL history this offseason, we kind of got to take the kid gloves off at that point, don't we? Last in the missionary position, we got, that's so funny to say out loud. We have the Indianapolis Colts. They went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew. I'm going to say that again for you. They went 9-8 with Gardner Minshew. If Anthony Richardson is even half as good as I think he's going to be next year, they're guaranteed 10 wins. And they have $72 million in cap room going into this offseason. That's more than enough to re-sign Michael Pittman and make sure Zaire Franklin gets his money. You already signed Jonathan Taylor. What do you need? Matter of fact, grab another receiver just in case. The offensive line looks like the offensive line again. Shane Steichen proved he's a great coach. This is an amazing situation and way better than Jim Irsay deserves. All right, that concludes our fucking losers list. I'm kidding. That concludes the teams that didn't make the playoffs list. Quick break, and then we're going to come back and do the playoffs. All right, we're back. And again, in lieu of power rankings, we're doing playoff tiers. And these tiers are in relation to you winning the Super Bowl. I would like for you to keep that in mind as I list off the categories. Category 1, shits and giggles. Category 2, too much dip on your chip. Category 3, we gonna need Jesus. Category 4, you gonna need Jesus. Let's start with shits and giggles, shall we? The Pittsburgh Steelers, you are in the playoffs for shits and giggles. Y'all ready for some reality, Steelers fans? Just making it to the playoffs is the win for y'all. If I told you before the season that your second year first-round quarterback was going to get hurt, you're going to get 3 games of Mitch Trubisky. The quarterback that you drafted that first-round quarterback to replace is now your best option. and you still get 10 wins and make the playoffs, you'll sign the dotted line before I even mention that you also fired Matt Canada that year. Just accept this win and don't even worry about the fact your best player is going to miss your playoff game. Just enjoy it. It's going to be in the snow too. Just have fun in your moment. Next, we have the Detroit Lions. You are in the playoffs for shits and giggles. I know the Lions are a high seed. And if a couple things would have went their way during the season, they might have even been the 1 seed. That would not have changed my answer. When you have not won a playoff game since George Bush Sr. was in office, you're in the playoffs for shits and giggles. The Lions are a great story. We're always rooting for a poverty franchise on the rise. It's a great story for the whole league. But at best, you're the 3rd best team in your conference, and if I wanted to be harsh, you're 5th. Now, enjoy your home playoff game. I'm sure Ford Field is going to be amazing, great environment. I heard they're going to do a tribute video to Matt Stafford before the game, which poverty franchise behavior, by the way. But sure, you can look back on all of him not winning in the playoffs for you as he proceeds to win in the playoffs for the team he won a Super Bowl with. Doesn't that sound like fun? Next, we got the Houston Texans. You are in the playoffs for shits and giggles. The Texans preseason over-under was 6.5 wins, and I thought that was too high. These fans were cursing Lovie Smith's name for ruining their tank and making sure they didn't get the number 1 pick. And here you are, hosting a playoff game. You are here for shits and giggles. Nobody, including you, expected to get this far. This is a huge victory already. Winning would just be the icing, gravy, sprinkling, whatever fat personality you want to put on top of this cake. That's what it is. I don't think you're hopeless against the Browns, and honestly, I'm going to pick you to win, but still, shits and giggles. Next, we have the Green Bay Packers, who y'all are ahead of schedule. If you're the Green Bay Packers, your first Hall of Fame quarterback is about to go on trial for robbing poor people in Mississippi. Your second Hall of Fame quarterback is Alex Jones on ESPN. And now your new quarterback threw 30 touchdowns and you're in the playoffs. Jordan Love looked so good this year that every announcer just had to make the Aaron Rodgers connection. They just couldn't help themselves. And it was a pretty rough year for the Matt LaFleur can't coach crowd. In the words of Smart Hulk, I consider this an absolute win. Even if your former head coach and his new QB scores 1,000 on you because your defense coordinator is terrible, just accept it. It's fine. Next, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You are in the playoffs for shits and giggles. Tom Brady out, Baker Mayfield in. You are 1 game better and you make the playoffs again. You would have drug tested me if I would have told you that's how the season would have went for the Bucs. And now this is everyone's go-to sleeper pick to get an upset in the first round. I'm having a much tougher time seeing that after seeing them only score 9 points against the literal worst team in the league last week, but sure, enjoy the moment. Shits and giggles. Next, we got the too much dip on your chip tier, also known as the too damn hype tier, also known as the calm y'all asses down tier. First, we got the Cleveland Browns. Y'all got too much dip on your chip. I need everyone to calm down. Now I'm going to sound like a hater because y'all always take shit too far. This Joe Flacco run has been adorable. He went straight from the carpool lane and right onto the field, throwing the ball around. Yay, so cute. And now the hype has turned into, what if the Browns win a Super Bowl? We know that Joe Flacco has Super Bowl pedigree. Bruh, I was a junior in high school when Joe Flacco won his Super Bowl. I am 27. Do you know the amount of playoff games that Joe Flacco has won since? One individual playoff game. Just one. And that was in 2015. And y'all want me to believe he's going to win 4 in a row? All on the road? Come on, man. You see, you always take shit too far. Next, we got the Buffalo Bills. You got too much dip on your chip. For 6 weeks, all I've heard, oh, don't let the Bills make the tournament. Nobody wants to see the Bills in the playoffs. And then the winning streak happens and y'all just couldn't help but confirm your bias. You didn't even pay attention to what you were watching. You're hyping up Josh Allen and Joe Brady and blah, 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 blah. Would you like to know what Josh Allen's numbers were during this winning streak? Don't worry, I'm going to tell you. He is 220 yards a game with 5 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. And let's not forget how Josh Allen looked last year in his last playoff game against the Bengals. You don't fire your offensive coordinator and then also win the Super Bowl within the span of 4 months. That's not how this works. There's way too much goddamn dip on your chip. Last in the too much dip on your chip category, the Los Angeles Rams. You got way too much dip on your chip. 2 things can be true. The Rams are the best matchup against the 49ers. Yes, because of Sean McVay versus Shanahan. And the Rams also have no damn shot at making the Super Bowl. The term styles make fights just fly right over y'all heads. If the Rams beat the Niners, all they're doing is making life easier for everybody else. But for a team that we all thought was tanking this year, this is an absolute win. Just take it. They're a little too good for shits and giggles, but still. Next tier, we got the we're gonna need Jesus. which is we could win the Super Bowl. We don't need a miracle from up above to make it work, but we could win the Super Bowl. First up, we got the Miami Dolphins, and Maya Angelou once said, when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Against playoff teams this year, the Miami Dolphins are 1-5 with a negative 91-point differential. Only the Giants and the Commanders have a worse differential, one of which played 3 different quarterbacks this year, and the other one is firing everyone in the organization from the coach to the ball boy. Tua led the league in passing yards this year, and then with the 2 seed on the line, went out there and didn't even get 175 of them. In order for this team to just make the Super Bowl, you want me to believe that they're going to beat triple the amount of playoff teams that they beat during the regular season, one of which being the defending champion Kansas City Chiefs, in their house, in what I've heard anywhere between 3 and negative 15 degrees. If that doesn't sound like a miracle from Jesus, I don't know what is. Next, the Kansas City Chiefs need Jesus. Guys, there is no switch. The switch is gone. They're not going to hit the switch. It's been broken all year long. There has not been a single moment all year long where we have said, that's the Chiefs offense I know and love. And every single week it's been, it's Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid. They'll get it together. 18 weeks later, still not together. And you could tell me that the defense is going to carry them through the whole time, and I would hear you if Baltimore wasn't already a better version of that. Yet and still, they drew some amazing matchups. They got the Dolphins, who can't beat nobody good in this first round. And then, more than likely, they got the Bills next round, who I covered in the last segment. They might end up in the AFC Championship by accident. And this is where Jesus comes in. Outside of Baltimore, the list of teams that can keep KC from the Super Bowl is maybe 1 or 2 teams long, if I'm being generous. So if Jesus smiles down on Arrowhead, this terrible Chiefs team might end up in the Super Bowl anyways. Next, the Dallas Cowboys need Jesus, but can I wild out? I still believe the Dallas Cowboys can make the Super Bowl. Now, winning it, different story, but I believe they can make it. With this version of Dak Prescott, if the Dallas Cowboys played the 49ers 10 times, I believe they win 3 of them. They just got to pray to Jesus that when they play them next, it's going to be one of those 3 times. And one of the ways that guarantees that happen is, as great as Dak Prescott has been this year, and objectively, this has been the best year of his entire career, he has to be even better, like full-blown out-of-body experience, like touched by Jesus and the football gods and the ghost of Roger Staubach's past. If Dallas is in Vegas come February 11th, it'll be because the biggest headline of the playoffs is, are we sure Dak Prescott wasn't the MVP the entire time? Oh, and if the defense can stop somebody from running the ball, that'd be nice too. The Philadelphia Eagles need Jesus. First of all, they need the healing hands of Jesus just for their injury list. Dear God. Devontae Smith is hurt. AJ Brown is hurt. Jalen Hurts broke his finger. DeAndre Swift was hurt last game. So if you're an Eagles fan, you need to gather up all the good karma you can before the next game. Keep your middle fingers to yourselves. Don't cut nobody off in traffic. Help an old lady across the street. Do everything you have to do. Because if these guys aren't even somewhat healthy, all bets are off and you might not even make it out of Tampa. This defense, though, that might even be beyond divine power. I've seen them get both thrown through and ran through, sometimes both in the same game. Problem is, the top 3 teams in the NFC are otherworldly good at one, the other, or both. So on top of divine healing, their defense needs something stronger than divine intervention. I love Philly fans. I swear I do. And as president of the Black Quarterbacks Fan Club, I love Jalen Hurts. But, I think turning water into wine might be a much easier task than getting Philly to the Super Bowl. All right, last tier of the night, the You Gon' Need Jesus tier, which is, unless the gods come down and strike these teams down themselves, these teams are going to the Super Bowl, starting with the Baltimore Ravens. If the Ravens we saw during the regular season show up for 3 weeks, the Super Bowl is coming back to 1101 Russell Street. The only problem is that hasn't been the case for the Ravens in the Lamar Jackson era. Granted, the sample size is small. Lamar's only 27. But if it were to happen, this will be the first time Lamar's had a great playoff run. It has to be noted. This year, he has 2 things that he never had in years past, though. Number 1, a historically great defense. The first defense ever in the history of the league to lead the league in points allowed at 16.5 a game, sacks in 60, and takeaways 31. Even the 2000 Ravens didn't manage to pull that off. And number 2, an actual receiving core. That one's new. And I'm expecting OBJ to have a crazy postseason run. He's been throughout the season, he's been more of a veteran leadership guy. I think he really turns it on for this 3-week stretch. This is the real reason they signed him. And my favorite part of all, the Ravens are a however you want it type of beat you team. You want to air it out? Sure, they can finally do that now. You want to make the game messy and ugly? Are you going to out messy and ugly the Ravens? No. And the icing on the cake, in close games, they have the best closer not named Adam Vinatieri in league history with Justin Tucker. If the Ravens play to their standard, it is going to be a takeover by the dummies in Vegas. If you're not from the DMV area, people in Baltimore call each other dummy as a greeting. I'm not calling people from Baltimore dummy. Just putting you on game. And of course, the San Francisco 49ers. The Niners at full strength might beat the whole NFC by an average of 3 scores. And I feel that way because at full strength, that's what they did during the regular season with every team but the Rams, but McVay, Shanahan, that's a whole thing. I'm not on the, if Brock wouldn't have get hurt, they would have won it all last year. I don't play the if hindsight game when it comes to football. That takes the fun out of everything. However, they made one hell of an argument for it this year. Kyle Shanahan and the Niner gang are rooting for 2 things, even if they won't admit it out loud. Number 1, they're rooting for the Ravens to choke some way, somehow on that AFC side because they don't want to see them again after what happened on Christmas. They want 0 parts of the Ravens. And secondly, they are hoping upon hope that the Rams lose week 1 just because they don't want to have to deal with Sean McVay. Those are the actual biggest threats to the Niners this postseason. And before I get off this tiers list, I just want to make a note. I like to throw my little shots at the analytics nerds every now and again because I was told that running backs and middle linebackers and safeties are meaningless positions. Well, these 2 teams that are the overwhelming favorites, one is the league leader in rushing. The other one has the leading rusher in Christian McCaffrey. There's 3 all-pro linebackers between these 2 teams. One team has an all-pro safety who sadly is not playing at the moment, Hufanga. And Kyle Hamilton will be an all-pro safety this year. And in a fair world, Geno Stone would be too, but I don't think the voters are going to get that one right. All I'm saying is the 2 best teams in the league just so happen to be really good at all these meaningless positions. And if you want to use a running back argument against the Ravens, I feel you. If you don't want to have a running back and have a good run game, cool. Just go find another Lamar Jackson. It's not like God only made one of those. All right, that concludes today's episode. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in to this all over. We talked about Katt Williams, Aaron Rodgers, COVID, Anthony Fauci, conspiracy theories. It's been all over the place, but thank you so much for listening. Like, follow, subscribe. Be sure to tune into the Open and Kickoff podcast. See me kick it with my friends. I will see y'all next week.